It's trying to push how we digest audio in an entertainment perspective, and how every episode, every scene, every line that we put out has to be saying something different than what we did before. And the only way you're going to do that is by pushing yourself and surrounding yourself with people who can think differently than that. This is the overall aesthetic that I've come up with for this brand. What can you do to continue that and also push it forward? The story isn't as interesting as how you tell the story. As long as you can keep pushing that and challenging that with every new thing you say, that's how we progress.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 130 of the Andrew Deitsch podcast. If this is your first time joining me, I want to thank you for checking it out. This show is all about having meaningful in-person conversations with some of the most fascinating people that I know. And I'm actually recording this intro extremely late on a Saturday night. It's like 2 a.m., but that's just how we do it over here. Definitely reminds me of the really early days of the podcast. I used to work until like 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. Sometimes I would just go to the gym. It was 24 hours, and I would just stay there because I could just work. But it's been a while since I've uploaded, man. It's been a crazy past few months. I've been having a really crazy year. Traveling, honestly, way too much, but it's been a lot of fun. And I have some really big podcasting projects and some big news that I've been working on that I'm really excited to announce very, very soon. So let's get into the show. My guests today are my friends Raul Vega and Aaron Cavette. And 2 years ago, they launched Rose Drive, which is a fictional mystery podcast. And Raul writes the script, he directs, he produces, edits, scores, mixes, and masters the entire show, and Aaron stars as the voice of the main character, Markus Hill. And Raul actually acquired the skills to do all this over the last 7 years working for Hans Zimmer, where they create scores for tons of films you've definitely heard of, like the new Lion King, Dunkirk, Blade Runner, Batman vs. Superman, Interstellar, the list goes on. They're an amazing team, and I loved hanging out with these guys. They're already doing such big things, and I can't wait to see where they go next. And this episode was actually recorded in Raul's studio in LA, so that's probably why the audio sounds a lot better than this audio. But without any further ado, please welcome my friends Raul Vega and Aaron Cavette. Raul Vega and Aaron Cavette.
Yes, sir.
Aaron Cavette. Cool. Okay, so everybody, welcome to the Andrew Deitsch podcast. If you haven't listened to episode, what episode number was the one we did before? 90-something? 93? I don't know, something like that. Yeah. We talked a lot about your background and everything like that, so go back and listen if you haven't already. But Aaron, I have not really heard any of your background or like... I know. I only know what I know through Raul and through social media and stuff, so give us a quick synopsis. But, well, actually, let's start with this. You guys are the founders of, well, I guess Raul is the founder of Phantom Ape and Rose Drive and everything, but you are kind of the second in command, or maybe like the co-captain.
Yeah, Aaron's the lead of Rose Drive, the scripted podcast that we were on your show. God, I guess it was already over a year ago that we did that last one.
It was over a year ago, which doesn't seem like it.
Yeah,
time flies.
Time really does fly. Yeah, Aaron's the lead of it. He plays Marcus. So if you guys have listened to it or are going to listen to it, hopefully, the main voice you're going to be hearing is this very talented individual over here.
The main 6 voices.
Yeah. You do 6 voices.
This guy, that's sick. It's a bunch. There's a head voice. There's different people.
That's awesome.
Bananas.
You're like the Seth MacFarlane of Rose Drive.
Pretty much, man.
Yeah, the moody Seth MacFarlane.
That's sick. Okay, cool. So for people that haven't listened to Rose Drive and they don't want to go back and listen to the other podcast just yet, let's give them a quick like catch up real fast. And then I want to hear about your backstory. Aaron.
Absolutely.
Cool. So Rose Drive is a fiction podcast that we released a couple years ago at this point now, the first episode back in 2017. It's a story following this young man named Markus Hill, played by Aaron Cavette. Just returned to his hometown of Southampton after being gone for, over 10 years. Just missed his 10-year high school reunion. He's recharging after some rough time in New York, and he recently found out that the person who ran over and killed his kid's sister in high school in a drunk driving accident, Forrest Sutherland, has returned. So once Marcus hears this, he's like, I gotta find him. I gotta, like exact my revenge. Hears that he's at the reunion, just missed him. So he goes on the alumni page and sees him talking about 7 different individuals from high school. Says, well, if I can't find him directly, I'm going to go and interview every single one of them one by one to see if I can find him. So that's how it starts. It's kind of like a neo-noir murder mystery of sorts, but it starts taking some really interesting bends and genre shifts towards down the line. So
Crazy
stuff. So we put out the first chunk, I guess, almost 2 years ago, and then we took like a year and a half, little bit of a break.
But you guys knew you were onto something. Like people were like super stoked. So you're like, holy shit, like we actually have an audience now. We need to really make sure this second chapter is really good.
Right. And closing off this storyline was something that was both exciting but also intimidating, because when you're creating a mystery, it's so much fun to dig all these little holes and all these little, building up that tension, and then you have to close that story at some point, at least enough.
Totally.
And I was like, oh man, I got to spend time doing this. But, I put a lot of time into the production and sound design and music, and, cause that is my background. And, but yeah, man, since that happened, we put out the finale, like 2 months ago, actually. And it's last month, actually. And it's just skyrocketed. Since we last chatted, we were featured in Forbes twice, which is pretty
insane,
cool.
Dude. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
so
that was nuts.
it was crazy, man. We were just doing something as a passion project, and then it turned into this whole thing. So it's been a lot of fun. But so that's kind of the background of that. And I mean, this literally, the show would not exist without this young man right here. So yeah, man.
That's awesome. And by the way, just for context, we're in LA. We're in Raul's studio, which is pretty freaking badass. If the audio sounds better than usual, now you know why. and you'll notice if you watch the video podcast, you'll see that we're in a totally different room.
We call it the dead room.
The dead room,
The dead room.
exactly.
The live room that's actually a dead room.
Yeah, it's alive, but it's dead at the same time. Maybe that's the live room and this is the dead room.
Yeah, I think for that sake, yeah.
Very cool. Well, Aaron, so yeah, let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Where were you born?
I grew up in
give us the quick
a wee little
story.
town up in Washington called Port Townsend, Washington. It's a ferry ride from Seattle.
Okay, gotcha.
And very small town, 1 road in, 1 road out, a ferry, 1 stoplight, and a McDonald's, I think, was the only major change.
How long was the ferry ride to Seattle?
Like 50 minutes.
50?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you had to drive like 30
You had to
minutes.
commit.
Yeah. You had to commit. Yeah. It was like you could do a day trip to Seattle, but you'd get up at
It wasn't
6.
like a 15-minute.
Yeah.
You're crushing 2 hours just on the way and the way back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's cool.
But I grew up in the
never been to
rain.
Seattle.
Oh, well, if you like rain, that's
You know what's actually really interesting? So me and Richard's back here, by the way. So if he makes a joke or something, we're all gonna laugh. But Richard and I, we live in Atlanta, and last year there was more rain in Atlanta than in Seattle.
Really?
More inches of
I know.
rain.
My whole
Which
family's
no
from
one thinks of
Georgia.
Atlanta as the rainy
That's
city, but it's
crazy.
been raining a lot. It's actually currently raining there right now. So
Wow.
What part in Atlanta?
we're like right outside the perimeter, like right in like Sandy Springs area.
Mhm.
It's kind of like right north of Buckhead.
Okay.
Right on 400 pretty much. So
My,
like right OTP outside the perimeter.
My dad grew up in Avondale Estates, right in Atlanta, and then my
Nice.
aunt lives in Greenville, Georgia. So I
Nice.
got a little bit of southern roots.
There
with you
we
guys. That's crazy. Small world. So anyways, Seattle, home of the rain. 10 months out of the year. If you ever go there, don't go in July because it's a complete misrepresentation of what that place
It's all
is.
beautiful.
Yeah,
and
everyone's like, I
sunny.
think I'll move to Seattle. I'm like, when'd you go? July? Go in December. But yeah, so small town kid, and I was an athlete my whole life, but I was one of those kids, like my sister was very artistic. She was a dancer. She played violin, and I was always at her shows, and I always had that like, I want to be doing that. But I was the football, baseball guy, and in my town, and I don't think they was like that I couldn't have, but I just didn't. But I always remember watching artistic things and being like, oh, that really speaks to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I got a football scholarship to go play football at a small school called Willamette University. And so I played football, and that was a liberal arts school. So that's where I kind of found art. And I was a way bigger human back then. I think I was about 100 pounds heavier than I am
Really?
right now.
Just see the
we'll
pictures,
show you
man.
a picture.
What
at some
position
point.
did you
As
play?
a fullback.
Oh, wow.
I was about 260 pounds.
Holy shit.
I was a big kid.
He was just a wall. He just looked like a soda can, dude. It was just mass.
Like my breakfast every morning was like 8 chocolate chip pancakes and 2 glasses of chocolate milk. That started the day. That was the day.
You guys can't see this, but Richard's face is like, what the?
Yeah, and then it
That
went into
is
like
some calories,
breakfast
dog.
burritos and chicken finger. Like, because at that point, as an athlete, I had to maintain that size, but I was always working out 3 times a day. I'd practice 3 hours a day. It was nuts. My whole life was literally eat, do school, because it was a pretty prestigious like academic school, so
Yeah.
it wasn't easy. So I'm balancing sports with everything else, with life and getting good grades and all that stuff. But liberal arts school, and I had to take acting classes. I had to take drawing classes. I had to take all of these art history classes, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And so if you can picture it, we have all these thespians in this class, and here's this 260-pound like fullback doing all these theater exercises and like improv games and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of when I found this love for self-expression in a way that I had no idea I could tap into. That was kind of like the budding rose, so to speak.
Yeah.
You see how tight in there.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. It's just so anyways. So then I graduated. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I had a pre-med degree in exercise physiology. I was like a big science person.
And it was a pretty small school for football, so it wasn't like you were like
it wasn't like do
anything with it necessarily.
Not. There's no way. Yeah,
'cause
like football was done.
Yeah, I feel like you got to either have a big passion for it or like really be at like a big school or something to make it happen.
And the last play of my career, I got knocked unconscious. So like I got the shit scared out of me. So I don't even think if I had a chance, I would go.
Wow.
Like,
was that the first time you got knocked out like that?
That way, I lost consciousness for like 20 seconds. It was bad. You could hear the pop like from the stands. Like it was,
Yikes.
Anyways, but my coaches like to replay that like 17 times the next day in film.
Of course.
Where there's like, like the boomerang kind of thing.
Jeez. Was that like traumatic for you? Like
it was,
it probably just solidified it more that you're like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, because they were like, you can go play next week, and I was like, no, football. That's when I like vividly remember no more football. That was, and I never regret what sports did for me. I love sports.
Totally.
And the way they shaped me, and the thing that they gave to me the most was work ethic, because I realized just what sports do, especially when you're like a budding young mind, and you have like when you have structure like that, you realize how many hours behind the scenes go into achieving 1 minute in a sporting event. We had a mathematician at our school do the calculations, and it was something like every 32 hours of practice, film, all that stuff equivalates to like 55 seconds of a game played.
Wow.
It was a huge astronomical number, but that's what sports gave to me that I've carried into this world of art, which I'll talk about probably sporadically throughout this. But so I graduated college, and I wanted to do art, and I didn't know where I wanted to go, and my sister lived in LA, and I was like, cool. So I sold everything I owned.
Older sister.
My older sister, yeah. I sold everything I owned. Literally, like all I had was in a backpack, and I had a keyboard because I played the piano. And I got on the train, and I just pulled up to the train station, and I slept on a couch for a week, and I went on Craigslist, and we've been living together 7 years.
That's crazy.
Just went on
Same
Craigslist.
house, or have you guys
Same
moved around?
Yeah, no, I mean, I moved in like probably a year before Aaron did. It's just a house, and there's a bunch of random people that were living there, and came over, and then he came over, and he's not even kidding me. Even when he came to the house, at that point, he wasn't as big as he was before, but I just remember I was like upstairs, and our roommate, who was like showing people the extra, she's like, oh yeah, so there's this guy Aaron who's going to be here in a little bit. So text us, and then I just hear like Godzilla walk in the house, and I'm like, what is that
The
sound?
floor is like creaking.
Yeah, and I come downstairs, and it's this young man, and he's just all smiles,
What's up, dude?
shaggy hair, just like hat, and he's just like a wall, just comes in, and I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey man, so like I heard you're in music, like I really love music too, and I was not expecting any of that whatsoever.
Yeah,
I think
like,
I
this
still
guy's
had
a
earrings
softie.
and like a Monster jersey on too. Like I was in bro
He was
mode
rocking
pretty hard.
hard.
It was
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then I had my sister with me, and it was I remember that. and we just saw her sitting in the living room and just interviewed, and then you guys called me the same day, didn't you?
Yeah, I think either that day or the day after, we're like, yeah, he wins.
That's sick. How many roommates have you guys cycled through since living in LA? Because I mean, you guys have like a house that has like some decent space, so I'm sure it's pretty.
5 since I've cycled through probably, there were like 4 other people before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're the last 2 though. We're the last 2 of the
OGs.
The OGs.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's a good thing, if that makes us old, or if it's a cool accomplishment.
Yeah.
Something. Either way.
Wait. No, you know what the accomplishment is that we've been in the same house for 7 years, and our landlord has not raised the rent one penny.
One time.
Wow.
So I think that's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
That is a big accomplishment, especially you guys are like right next to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, any property in LA is like high commodity anyways, but like pretty good spot in an actual house, you know?
Yeah, you can't even get, what is a 1-bedroom anywhere in LA is going to be $1,400.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah, we were
That's a studio price.
And that's you can get a box for that, maybe.
Yeah, we were at someone's house the other day. They said their rent was like $9,000 for the place.
That's insane.
In Venice Beach. Yeah, it's nuts.
Jesus.
Was it 7? I thought you said, I'm pretty sure they said 9. 7 roommates. Oh, 7 roommates. Yeah.
I have because I do I have a personal training business as well that I do to help supplement income, but I have a client who is very wealthy, but they rent a house for $29,000 a month.
Ooh, that's
Something
nuts.
It's
renting
crazy.
for $29,000, like, geez.
Or it was something like that, but like
Jeez.
But not that for any other reason. It just shows you like the demographic of what LA does.
Yeah,
you know? And
totally.
and super awesome for them that you know that they
And
can pull
how
that in.
like, I mean, me and Richard can attest to this. Even just being out here for the past week, like we've made like so many invaluable connections and stuff. Like people that really want to be here, and like you got to be hustling and making something happen. Because if you're not, you're not gonna stick. You're not gonna be able to stick around.
Yeah, that's the thing is, if you can survive LA for a year, then you can. That's what I've heard. Is like everyone is if you make it a year and you feel like there's something that you can get from this city, then you can continue. But most of the time, if you aren't constantly finding purpose or like actively trying to better yourself for whatever you're doing, especially in the industry or any type of arts here, then it can just eat you alive because you see everyone around you either doing more than you or at least pursuing more than you, and it can like eat you.
Everybody's got to go through. I mean, I think what Aaron was saying before about work ethic is true.
Yes,
because it's just you can be as talented and as skilled as the next person. You can be the big fish in the small pond, or in Aaron's case, where he came from, Aaron was a whale in a raindrop. Like, dude,
is that a fat joke?
Dude,
is that a creative fat joke?
No, I'm talking about when you're doing sports back at home, right?
That's a good analogy.
Like, that's what you were. It's just, and so, you know, and I'm gonna put him on blast. So he came out here kind of with more of that mentality of like, like I'm gonna, I got this, and then this town kind of like,
I got humbled,
swallowed
tough,
you up, and spit you back out, boy.
As it did for me and everybody else.
Yeah, of course.
And part of it's just us kind of going through the waves of it, but it's you hit that point when you realize, all right, I got to get serious about this, because as much as great as it is having mom and dad and friends tell you how amazing and talented you are, that doesn't mean anything if you don't have that flow and that hustle inside of you. And that's honestly part of what led us to working together. The convenience of living together was great. And obviously, I work in music, I work in film music. Aaron's been acting for now over 5 years, which is crazy. And, just one day when we really found a reason to join forces, it's tricky, right? Because when you're working with one of your closest friends, you never really know how that's going to go, right?
Totally.
Especially when you're trying to be professional.
I can attest to that, yeah.
Right? And for us, it's just every moment, of course, we're always like, we were both goofing around a lot because we like to do that. But because you have to have fun doing it. But we also were 100% able to hyper-focus and respect each other as artists and, really kind of do the craft and the work together and build something. And that's something that's not, unfortunately, you can't always find with people if they don't have that matched drive. Because like I was saying before, they
can start to resent you.
Well,
because they can feel like you're working harder than them, or you're trying to like prove something, or
absolutely,
you're like elevating past their level, and it makes them uncomfortable because it almost feels like you're calling them out without even calling them out.
Well, yeah, that, and just it's what I was saying earlier about about that and everything. Like, and I'm sure it's the same for Aaron too. Whenever we work with other people and bring them into our world, you have to have that hunger and that drive and that ethic. We don't like talent is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're not going to treat it seriously and want to work and do the effort, you have no place in what we're trying to build, you know?
And I think that what we spoke on, in a certain circumstance, yeah, it could eat you alive if you're around someone or a friend that is pursuing and doing and doing, and you're not maybe doing as much. But in our case, like every time we walk in, I hear him editing in his room, or like he'll walk downstairs and I'm practicing my piano or you know, like
painting
or I'm doing my I write
other things.
I write monologue character, because the thing with the industry is it's so much of, I never want to fall in that position where like I'm waiting for you to give me something to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because that will eat you alive. I've said that eat you alive so many times, but it's true. It will consume you when you feel like you're predisposed to having to wait for something.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a while, but I just write monologues every week, and then I have a green screen and I just record these characters so that I feel like I'm growing some way in acting ability with voices and body movements. And I just did one that I'm really proud of, which was really hard, but I'm in a conservatory right now at Stella Adler, and I basically just am going back to just relearn new tools to act. And our final project was creating a character and in darkness has something debilitating about them physically, and I chose this speech pattern and this mental world that he's in, and he has a crippling he's suffering through MS and everything. But it was really profound to experience a level of growth artistically where I'm like, oh, I can create this now. Where I used to feel like, you know, insecure about trying to tackle characters of that magnitude. And it's been a really like wonderful experience, like, kind of getting off tangent, but yeah, so like doing these characters on green screens, but what I was saying is I walk in the house or he walks in the house, and we're always doing something, and so it creates that level of pushing each other.
Yeah,
and it's kind of an unspoken
inspires you
world.
to greatness. Like you feel like, well, I can't just walk in here and be lazy when Raul's in the next room.
100% though,
Yeah,
but in
dude,
the
and
most
that's the
positive
same
way.
thing with
Exactly.
him,
And when we both check each other too, it's like, yo, we need to have a day off.
Yeah.
We're gonna sit in the living room and just be fat asses and watch movies, you know, like 7 episodes of Soprano, like not that many, but you know, something like that where we can
12.
also
Yeah.
in a healthy way make each other like deconnect. That's not even a word, is it?
Disconnect.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
close.
Yeah. I went to school. I know words.
I'm practicing a new character that specifically doesn't know the word disconnect.
Yeah, exactly. It's a choice. It was a choice.
Yeah,
It's a deep character. I'm telling you. No, it's totally true, because you're right. Like if you have friends that are complacent and kind of just like doing the same thing, or they come home from work and they're like not really like doing anything else, or, you know, I can relate to that, because, you know, you just got home from work and you're, you know, tired. Like you want to just be lazy or whatever.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
if you want to, like, you know, there's a healthy balance, like you said. You know, some days you got to give yourself a day off and let yourself have a break. But at the same time, it's like the only way you're gonna get what you never had before is by doing things you never done before. You know,
100%.
so like if you want, like, no one's gonna just walk up and hand you a freaking free check. Like you gotta, in your spare time, work on your dream. You know, so
and even if someone did hand you that free check, if you don't have the work ethic behind it, it's gonna be a quick
loss.
Yeah,
Dude.
and like
Yeah.
I've heard like luck. You know, some people like believe in luck or they don't. I think luck is kind of like earned a little bit, because when an opportunity presents itself, you gotta like be mentally and like actually ready to receive that type of opportunity. Like if we, for example, me and Richard, we're out here shooting a bunch of YouTube videos, and if we were just coming to LA to try to meet that one big YouTuber who's gonna like give us a shout out, but we didn't even have any videos on our channel, and we didn't even like we show up to do this collab, and like I'm messing with the camera, I don't know what I'm doing, and he's messing up and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
This person's gonna be like, this
it's a waste of time.
This is a waste of time. But because we put in the hours and we know what we're doing and we've proven ourselves, people are like stoked because they see that you're putting in the effort, and like people love that.
Well, you like feed off of each other with that. You
Totally.
know what I mean?
That's what I learned, like, going back to the sports thing, is that's what team sports are. Especially I've been involved in a few team sports that have gone, you know, to championship levels. Even in college, we were nationally ranked, and you realize like how you can push each other. Where I think even, you know, being an artist in LA is a very individualized journey in some ways. But the whole thing I would recommend to anyone is you have to find a community. And that's how we kind of built Rose Drive, but also the Phantom Ape. is community.
Mm-hmm.
Is who do we trust, who do we want to work with, and how can we give you an opportunity to be creative because we want to support you as much as you want to support us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember you kind of mentioned that in our first podcast. Like, it was literally like the two of you guys, like, I'm not getting auditions. I've got all these skills and things that I want to pour into a personal project. Like, we've got all these friends that are super talented. Let's just fucking make our own show. Like, why not? You know, the distribution networks are there. We can make a podcast. Like, you don't have to be a massive network or something to launch something big.
No, and you kind of just, I mean, exactly what Aaron was saying before. And I think it's even harder for actors because this industry has kind of created this vessel where they feel like it's a constant, like, the only way you're going to be able to do this is if I give you the opportunity to. And you know, it wasn't until we were sitting there just talking about it and we're like, wait, what if we make our own thing? You know, like, shit, well, let's do it. Why the hell not? What do we have to lose?
Totally.
So we just created something that literally nobody fucking asked for. Not one person asked for it.
It's like that meme, like, nobody.
Yeah,
us.
Literally nobody
Rose
ever.
Drive.
And then here's us. Yeah, exactly, dude. There was nobody nobody was like, hey, we're looking, you know, we just said, let's do it. Let's do it as a test, as a fun thing. You know, Aaron had never done any voiceover work before, and you would have no idea because you listen to it and you're like, holy shit. Like,
well, I mean, from what I know about voiceover, it's like it's basically just like acting without the camera. Like, you're still doing
It's weird
the
though.
things.
Because so, you know, so often you use your whole body on camera to create a character and to, you know, live in a circumstance, but in a booth you look like a crazy person because you're still doing all this and you're crying over, you know, death of loved ones and like laughing and making all these things, but you're literally just standing at a mic. And so anyone who didn't see any sound or hear anything, if they like walk by windows, they'd be like,
what the fuck is that guy doing?
Losing it. It's like another Joker in here, like just going bananas.
No, but it's also kind of cool too because you get to show the emotion with your voice by actually physically acting it out, whereas you see something on film and a lot of it's being seen, right? So when you have to do all that work when you're doing something like a fiction podcast, right, which is also different from an audiobook, which is also different from like you know, there's different styles and genres we can dip into, but it's different than doing like a cartoon.
Definitely
finding that balance is a really interesting thing that we've had to kind of learn together. And anytime we've brought our friends to come in to record who have either done voiceover work or who have not, we've really been kind of adamant about helping them shape the character in a way that's really coming out through the voice, because a lot of our friends that have come in have been very much seen in the world, and you know, you've seen them in TV shows and movies, and when we're coming in here, that's when we have to kind of go through and shape word by word, phrase by phrase, you know, how are we going to be able to communicate this strictly with inflection of voice, where you're putting the cadence, where the rises and the falls are, because this is your visual, you know.
Totally.
Your voice is the visual in that.
Yeah, and that's something that I know you mentioned in our first podcast too, is like you had listened to some fiction podcasts that were cool and stuff, but they were like decidedly kind of a little bit more amateur than what you were even capable of, because I mean, just based on your skills from what you do for a living, like you already knew that you could create these environments in people's brains I think you posted a quote the other day from like a comment or something about like creating a movie in your brain or something like that. Like someone posted something about it. I can't remember what they said, but it was like worded really well.
Oh God. Yeah. That was
one of the reviews, right?
It was the last Forbes review. Shout out Joshua Dudley, my boy. No, he said something like it was like listening to the finale of Rose Drive forces you to train your brain to see a movie like in your mind.
Yeah, it's like a movie that no one's ever seen or something. Like because in your brain you visualize everything. Because I mean, we do that. I mean, I would even think that probably like everyone that's listened to it has a different visual for every single different thing.
Right.
But it's all. But everyone listened to the same exact thing. Well, yeah. Everyone visualizes 100%
It's like
different.
Markus Hill looks different to everyone. Well, I mean, we have posters of like pictures of you know, of Rose Drive and stuff, but a lot of the characters, a lot of the world, everybody who listens to it, it's not the same visual that they see.
Yeah, the whole point of building this was to give people guides. That's what I want to do, and with dialogue, with sound design, and with music. I'm giving you the guide so that you can use something that as adults we're not often pushed to use anymore, and that's our imagination, and so you can be a passive listener, but I kind of force you to be active because I'm trying to create a world that's really, really immersive, instead of it just being a narrative of somebody like reading an audiobook to you or something, which would be a lot cheaper for us to make, because we put so much time into trying to build that world. And there's times where it's challenging, we're in the finale, and in other stuff we're working on, there's like timeline splits, right? Because I think of it like film. So
Totally.
you're listening to like a 2-minute scene, and maybe the first 10 seconds are in one timeline, the next 10 seconds are like a couple days ago, and being able to shape that in a way your listeners don't get too confused is a little tricky. That's where you have to be a little bit strong in exposition of really setting the environment. So if the first scene is a guy running away in the forest, and then we cut to a little bit in the past where he's at a bar playing pool, setting up those environments very, 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 very strongly helps, so that when you're jumping back and forth, hopefully your brain can kind of like
like I know in film, I think I don't even know all the terminology, but like there's certain things like in editing they call it, I think, an L cut, where basically they're like splicing the audio from the next environment over top of visuals from the previous one.
Right.
So it's not just a jump cut of visuals and audio at the same time. It's like your brain is already hearing rain, and then the visuals change to that scene in the rain.
Yeah.
So it's like you're training the audience to be like, okay, here's a scene change. Here it comes, boom.
Yeah.
So like same thing with the audio in the background. You can tell a lot about what's happening in the, just based on, like right now, you can tell that we're in some sort of like dead studio environment. There's no echoes. We're obviously not in a like arcade or some shit.
Right.
He could do it.
We could,
could.
man. I don't know. Maybe we'll edit this later, and we'll throw us like
we'll put a
undersea.
green, or call edit us
carnival
out.
sounds in the back and stuff like that. It'd be great.
No, did you? On a side note, did you ever listen to the podcast I did, the fake one where I like made it?
Yeah, it was the
with
April
Casey
Fool's actually,
Neistat.
right?
Yeah, with April Fool's.
Oh,
Did I trick you with that? Did you listen to it?
No, because you told me about it before.
Oh, yeah. Because we did it before we met. I did it before we met.
Yeah.
I basically did a fake podcast where I like met one of my favorite like YouTubers, Casey Neistat. I met him like at the airport, and then I took clips of his other conversations that he had on like Twitch or on other podcasts, and made it seem like I was interviewing him. And the way that I was able to kind of like not seamlessly, but mask the differences in the audio quality was I had like airport noises going on in the background. Yeah. So I found like a 4-hour loop of like airport noises on YouTube and just kind of like overlaid it in the background to kind of like mask the differences. And also at the beginning, I was like, you know what? I ran into him. I saw this was my opportunity. I was like, yo, like, when's your flight? Like, and he's like, I got 20 minutes. Let's knock it out. So I was like, perfect. Like, I literally set it up so that it sounded like,
you got people, man.
Don't forgive the bad audio. I still get people to this day. Like, literally, Richard. Like, I got Richard. Like, people will text me and they're like, you motherfucker. I went back and listened to that episode.
That's like
and like, some people didn't even like listen to it, but they're like, dude, congrats on the Casey Neistat interview.
Oh,
that's
so
rad.
funny,
How do you go about receiving that? You're like, because I wish that actually happened, but
I know.
but also good for me.
Sometimes I roll with it because it's just too awkward.
Has he seen it? Has he seen it?
No.
We got to get his eyes on
met,
him, man.
I know. I tried to kind of like share it to him on Twitter when I first did it, but it didn't ever like any traction.
Like Spencer, one of our roommates, he like, a lot of people think he's Eminem because he's a gifted like freestyle rapper.
I think you showed me some of his stuff.
Yeah, we did actually. I think you guys actually met him last time we were at the house.
Yeah.
But he did like a, I don't know, like Machine Gun Kelly or something. They had this big feud, Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly, and Spencer's brilliant, but he's like, this is my in to get views, because he's just gonna title a video that's like Eminem's response. Yeah. And he sounds exactly like him, and it was a great video, and
that's hilarious.
Went viral immediately.
That's awesome.
So the House of Creatives, man. That's that's also the cool thing is, he's originally Fandom Ape was started off with me and Spencer doing these freestyle videos on Periscope.
That's awesome.
Yeah, where we would have our viewers type words, and then I'd film it, and then he would freestyle over those words.
There's a guy on YouTube now, I think he lives in LA, or maybe not. I've seen him do videos in LA for sure on like Venice Beach Boardwalk or whatever, but he's a freestyle rapper, and he'll do that on his live streams where people will just like comment stuff, and the freestyle will be continuing on the words. And like some of his best videos, he did some like really good viral ones where he was on the boardwalk and he would like be freestyling about people's outfits. He'd be like, just like the guy in the blue hoodie, blah blah blah, with the Woody, like, and he's like pointing to like all the different people. Oh, in the red shoes, blah 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 blah.
There's a guy in Hollywood Boulevard that does that right next to my theater.
That's sick.
It's great. I'll stand there for half hour and just be like, this guy's killing it.
Yeah, and they'll just keep going. That's the best thing.
But that's inspiring in itself, though,
Totally.
because you see this person literally working on something that they're like incredibly passionate about for nothing other than they want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see what it can lead to, because he wasn't, I mean, the guy that I watched that was doing that too is like, he didn't start out that way.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and now you see someone who can literally create complex structures of strings of dialogue in their head immediately.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very nuts.
Incredible.
Yeah, being around creative people is just so fun. Because I can kind of relate to what you were saying, Aaron, about kind of like being in that world where you always saw inspiration from stuff like, you know, dance or music or whatever, but you never like delved into it because you were like, I'm already like doing athletic stuff and doing sports. And like I kind of had a sort of similar experience with it where I did try to get involved in some of the like art classes and stuff at school, but I always looked at it where I was like, well, I'm not the best in the class, so like how am I ever gonna like make it as a artist or whatever, because I'm not even better than like half the kids in this class, and that's just the kids in my high school. Like this isn't the world. You know? Yeah. So it was an interesting kind of thing where I was involved in art classes and stuff like that. I never really got into like acting, but I always looked at it that way where I was like, this is just for fun for me. I don't think this is ever going to go anywhere. But now it's cool because now I'm doing like so much video stuff, and I've always been like passionate about making videos, but I never really thought about like, oh, I want to go to like film school and do this the right way. I kind of like backwards my way into the whole thing, and it ended up working out, which is kind of crazy.
Well, we talk about it a lot because what a valid feeling that is to have, where especially if you take that high school feeling, then you put yourself in LA as a young adult who it doesn't have the luxury of adolescence to kind of be like, I fucked up here, I fucked up there. It's okay. My ego's not that hurt. You know, now you're in LA and you're trying to like, we all want to feel seen.
Totally.
But that feeling of like, well, that person's doing this and I'm only here. And, you know, it's a really hard feeling to get away from, but one I think is important to recognize in yourself and allow to have space and feeling it. But also, we talk about a lot of you don't want to do these things for the end result. And what I really work a lot in myself with every day is realizing that I'm doing this because I want to grow. And at the end of the day, wherever that leads me, I can finish a day off and feel like I did things that I was better off today than I was yesterday. But trying to really get away from that end result or how many views or what show I'm on or these kinds of things that can hurt. Especially, what is that famous statement? The death of joy is comparison. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what a valid thing to experience. I think that we all do, but getting away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's those things can be really crippling, right? They can be really stifling to your growth, and just kind of like exactly what Aaron was saying. Last month, I did a guest career showcase speak at my old high school, which was really awesome. Cool. Yeah, dude. And it was really funny.
In Southampton?
In Southampton.
On
Rose Drive. No. Yeah, it was a career showcase that they do a couple times a year, and I was on a panel with three other folks. One who worked at a refinery, an entrepreneur, and then also someone who works in HR for some company. But there was one young student there who's senior, and she came up to me after. She was like, "Hey, I just want to say I love film. Like, I really want to get into that. And that's like, I was really inspiring hearing your story. And I'm like, oh my God, that's fantastic. That's so cool. And she was like, so I was just wondering, like, what school should I apply to? And I was like, well, what are you doing right now to make yours? And she was so fixated on, because it's always been communicated, school, that's the only way you're going to achieve what you need to achieve. And I could tell it was like stuff. She was like, I know UCLA has a good program, USC. I was like, my friend, don't worry about that. Wherever you go doesn't matter. What matters is what you're doing now. You know,
Totally.
create for the sake of creating, have fun doing it. It's like, what are you doing right now? Are you in touch with the drama department? Oh, a little bit. I was like, well, just make a talk to them. Have some ideas. Like, don't rely on other people to give you permission to do stuff. It's exactly what we did here, right? But it kind of goes to that whole notion of like, oh, well, just like kind of what you're saying, well, I didn't go to school for this. I didn't study this professionally, so therefore I'm not qualified to do this. And you know, I just
struggled with that feeling a lot.
Yeah, and it
Definitely.
to me, and I mean, there's still times that I've still done that, you know, like, but you once you are able to take that, live with it, and then move forward, that's when the real fun starts happening. Because then you can stop judging and comparing yourself to every little thing that you do against everybody else. Anybody who has a piece of paper that told them that they could, you know, this is what they do. But I was just, and once I kind of told her that, I was like, it doesn't matter where you go. All that matters is that you stay true to your art and wherever you're at. And she was kind of like, oh, I didn't think about that. Because all they tell us is you have to go to school and you have to do this. And it's like, it doesn't matter what program you go to, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. But also at the end of the day, you are your own creator, you know? So whatever ends up happening for you is going to be on you. And as long as you have the passion and the drive for it, man, like, doesn't matter. You're good.
Yeah.
And the more you practice that kind of stuff too, like the more you hone your skills. Like you know, I know you got like this opportunity working with Hans and all that because you were already like working on things. Like you can't just expect that going to school is gonna give you all the experience you need.
Right.
Granted, like there's definitely pros and cons to all of it. Like if you can go to school with no debt and like you're actually trying really hard, like I mean that's the thing. It's like it's a kind of a joke, but I mean like maybe you got parents that are, you know, really wealthy or whatever. Like if they're paying your way, like sure, but like don't take it for granted and don't just like breeze through it and you know waste away those years just expecting to get a job at the end. Because I think about like, you know, my journey too, like recently with the YouTube stuff, I've gotten I've honed my skills because I've been practicing. Like I have a friend who she went to I don't really need to say because I don't want people to be able to figure out exactly who I'm talking about, but she went to a school for like film and stuff, but not even like a film school, like just a normal kind of whatever SEC school in the South, but they had like a film program. And now she's like out here on the West Coast trying to kind of make things happen. She wants to be like a camera operator or something like that, working, you know, somehow in film. And I had lunch with her and I was kind of talking to her about like, so what are you like working on right now? She's like, well, I'm just like applying for stuff. And I'm like, oh, like, you know, are you like, you know, just making any fun stuff? And I kind of found out like she doesn't even like own like a camera. And I'm like like that just like no knock on her because she's just doing what she thinks she needs to be doing. But at the same time, it's like, dude, if you want to be like a director or something, because I think that was what her like eventual goal. I mean, a lot of people say that kind of thing. And it's like, if you want to be a director, you need to figure out like these time. No one's going to trust you with $1 million budget with no experience.
I don't want camera rig.
I don't trust you with a $10 budget.
Exactly. So it's like you need to get your hands on a camera somehow and play around with it. Like you don't want to be showing up on set first time you're ever using a you know, like you want to know all the little nuances and things. Like even if you're just making a little film for yourself that you're never going to post anywhere, like just doing something.
That's the I don't know who said it, but it's a pretty famous quote. But if you're an artist, make art every day, even if it's shitty art. Yeah. You know, but it kind of leads into what 5 years ago we sat down at Tinder Greens and we came up with the idea of Rose Drive podcast. Raul did, and I jumped on the train. I 100% credit to him, and I've bled into it more and more as things have gotten, you know, more and more serious, and it's just been amazing. But what about 3 months ago? We sat at the same table at Tinder Greens and realized what changes in 5 years. That like 5 years ago we had this conversation.
Well, that was when you decided you wanted to.
And
do
also,
acting.
because at that same conversation too, Oh no, because it was at Flame Broiler we had the Frozen.
We had the Rose Drive conversation like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
but regardless.
But we were in our creative frustration on both our parts at the Tinder Greens thing, and that was the day. Yeah, the Flame Broiler one. We still need to do Flame Broiler.
Hit it up again.
Yeah,
that nostalgic
but that was
moment.
the day almost 6 years ago that I was like, I want to act, and that journey was basically, I became very good friends with a family in LA who their whole family is basically kind of a Hollywood, not royalty, but a lot of their family are working actors on a large scale. But I met I went to a Christmas party and I met an actor who's a very successful actor right now. And I had talked to him for like 5 hours and I was like, I'm kind of like, I really want to act and I'm in this one class. And he just wrote me an email the next morning and he's like, I see a lot of you and me, you should do it. And I think you can do it. And it was obviously much more intricately worded.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what started it off, is just a day where I was like, I want to act. And then since then, for 5.5 years, there hasn't been a week where I haven't been in an acting class. Like not a single week has gone by where I have not been in class. And even, and I've had the, I feel lucky that I have booked smaller roles I have experienced television before, but I'm also like, in all of these classes experiencing different ways to learn how to act. And recently I had to relearn how to act because the way that I had been taught wasn't serving me anymore. And I had to humble myself, and I did it twice, and it destroyed my ego for a second. But I've played the piano for 8 years, but it was self-taught. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, one of my dreams is to play in a jazz trio. And I can't do that unless I can read jazz standards. So I literally, after almost 9 years of playing the piano at a level that I was like, I'm pretty good at the piano.
Gotta empty that cup.
I went back to piano lessons, and here I am just doing like wrist movements of like one note, just sitting at this piano.
I see the frustration in him too.
And it just eats you alive because all I want to do is just.
And he's like, I want to go crazy, and I'm like, you gotta go second by second by second if you want to build it.
Yeah, It was the same with acting too, where it didn't need getting like process and all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't serving me anymore, and it was starting to hurt what I was doing to get to certain places.
Yeah.
And just emotionally and in my life. And so I went back to a new style, a method of acting that is all imagination. So no matter what I'm dealing with, it's that I've created it, and it's either traumatic or happy, but it exists in a world where I believe it to be very true, but it's not of something I'm pulling from that hurts in a way that I was. But in a sense, I had to relearn again. I had to humble myself to be like, I don't know anything anymore. But that's that world of, I think I like to live where all I know is that I do know nothing, because the more you get better at something, to realize how much bigger there is, how much more there is to learn. Totally. And that world continues to expand to where you feel like you're just this little blip.
Well, and that leads back to it's not about the end goal, it's about the journey, right? I know that's like something a lot of people say.
It's really cheesy, but it's
true.
It's repeated because it's true.
It's true, but I also don't think a lot of people really like. There's a lot of people who don't believe in it within themselves to do that, because like even where I work, right? I work for Hans Zimmer, and we make all these crazy scores, these big projects, but everything is an experiment. Every single project is an experiment. It's pushing it, it's testing. And
I'm sure stuff doesn't work a lot.
A lot of the time stuff doesn't work, but we find a way. Well, maybe that'll plant a little seed or germ of an idea for a future project, But that's what it is. Because if you just say, oh, cool, I mastered this and that's it, there's no growth in that. This is a path that will continue to change, and it's insane, but that's kind of been the fun part. And that's what we wanted to do with Phantom Ape. We just finished the Rose Drive finale last month. But since when we did take that break, that year-long break, we were working on 2 other scripted podcast series, developing pilots and pitch decks and overall arcs, season 1, season 2, season 3, what those would look like, producing other shows that weren't necessarily RIP, but we wanted to bring to expand the brand. All these other things that we're currently developing right now. So now it's like logistics and marketing and how we're going to push it even further. Because, this finale was, okay, let's close off this storyline. So now people have one storyline, understanding that it opens the doors for several other ones to expand. but the goal wasn't to finish
The
it.
Phantom Ape cinematic universe.
Yeah, pretty much, man. That's what this is all about, man.
Heck yeah.
It's trying to push how we digest audio in an entertainment perspective, and how every episode, every scene, every line that we put out has to be saying something different than what we did before. And the only way you're going to do that is by pushing yourself and surrounding yourself with people who can think differently than that. I really enjoy coming up with a vision for a show, right? I love coming up with the ideas of who the characters are, what the circumstances are, the environments, all these little kind of like glitzy things. And then I can bring in Aaron or Johnny Baca or Paige Herschel and say, all right, what can we do to shape these characters? What can we do to shape this world in a way? Bring in other sound designers, engineers. Hey, this is the overall aesthetic that I've come up with for this brand. What can you do to continue that and also push it forward, because you have a more curated mind to that? You know, to me, it's the story isn't as interesting as how you tell the story. And as long as you can keep pushing that and challenging that with every new thing you say, I mean, that's how we progress, you know?
Totally.
And no longer being this inclusive thing. Look, we did Rose Drive with just us two, you know. It was, for the most part, it was me recording Aaron, and then I'd take everything and edit and do all this stuff. The majority of it worked that way. We'd bring in our friends to do the voices and stuff. But
how many hours do you think
I can't even.
Because I read a lot of the times we didn't have both actors to read a part, so I would come in and read all of the other characters while we were recording the other character.
They could react to.
I mean, like hundreds of hours.
Hundreds of hours, man. Not to mention the edits and just the Foley work and all that stuff. But all of that wasn't meant to be this self-fulfilling thing where I'm like, look what I can do. It was because, and we've been very honest about this, we've had no budget on this. For everything we put out, it's been such a strong passion project. Everybody has helped and nobody got paid a dime. Because I'm a cheap ass. No.
But also, like, you're fronting the costs of, like, the equipment, whether it's, you know, whether you're able to have access to it or if it's purchased, or, you know, even just your time. Like, you're the one putting out the final product. So even though they're not getting paid, they're getting to be featured in something really cool. Obviously, you can't pay the bills with getting featured. I understand that as well. Like, I'm giving you exposure, but
fuck that shit.
We were, I think we've talked so much about work ethic and what it takes to, you know, have success, especially in LA, but as an artist that takes yourself seriously and wants to have really good projects and really good work done, is that just an example. We talk about, you know, it's doing something every day to get better. And just to a testament to see personally, you can see what his growth is. If you were listen to the first episode of Rose Drive and then you listen to the last 3, that's 2 years. And then you think, okay, in those 2 years, look at the growth that Raul's had. And in a macro scale, and kind of as you trickle down from what Raul's created from that first episode to here, you can hear my voice and see what my voice has changed. My VO skills have changed in that amount of time in 2 years. Every other actor that's been a main part, the sound design, everything. But it's that testament that it's not an instant thing. It's you do it every day, you spend all the time, and then realize, like, or like the conversation at Tinder Greens 5 years later, you're like, holy shit. I've been consistent with that. I think consistency is that other big thing, is we all grow through consistency. And so you see that, you're like, oh, there's proof that we weren't doing this to be at this point. We were doing it because we enjoyed it, but look what it's led to.
And we did it. You know, that's what I was saying before. Nobody asked us this. Nobody told us to. Not one person said do this. We just did it. And I think that's where all the joy has come from it, because it's something that we decided to do as a test, as a fun project, so I could truthfully kind of build my portfolio outside of what I do professionally, right? Like, all right, cool, I've worked on all these projects, these films.
There's something to call your own, rather than like, I made this little sound that then got transformed into this other thing.
Right.
And, it's at the end of the day, it's not your score. Like, you help create the instruments that were used to create the score, but it's not your final project.
And even that being said, look, I mean, there's not 1 ounce of me that is not humbled and just completely thankful for everything that I have and what I've been able to work with, and working with a genius like Hans and with our team here that are just the most genuine, hardest working people. I mean, they have pushed me so far in ways that I never thought that I wasn't holding myself as accountable to in the beginning, but we were all just you're constantly surrounded by just these brilliant humans who just want to create and push each other and push themselves and say something that the world hasn't heard yet. That's what we do with every project here. And that translated into what we do with Rose Drive and how I want to build it. It's like, okay, cool, man. Like, even beyond the skill set that I've learned here with editing and audio design and stuff, it pushed my work ethic even more, which I would vouch to say I had a pretty strong work ethic to begin with, but it's only gotten bigger and stronger because once you put it out there's a reliability that your fans and people who have listened to you are going to be expecting, so they hold you accountable.
Totally.
And it's a real fun thing because regardless of how much time put into it and how long it takes for them to digest it, just kind of like what you were saying about with practice, like we may spend like 40, 50, 60 hours on one 30-minute episode or 20-minute episode. They listen to it and it's gone. But that's
multiplied over thousands of people, right? So it's not just one person listening to it for 20 minutes. I mean, you might have spent 100 hours on it, but maybe 10,000 hours of total listen time. If you like calculate all the people.
Oh, I've never thought of it. Yeah,
it is kind of crazy because I think about that with YouTube videos. I mean, me and Richard at the time of recording this, we have like over 5 million views on our YouTube channel, which is like nuts to think about.
Large, congrats.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
like it's
huge.
And that's just view count. That's not even like minute count, right? Like if you have the minutes watched, it's like over 10 million. Like it's like
that's
crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, congrats, you guys.
So
that's
like
awesome.
So like now when I'm editing, because like I'm shooting and editing and everything. Like when I'm sitting in the edit, it's like in the beginning. I mean, obviously I was still trying to do my best, but now it's like, this is not only going to be watched like in the weeks following, but like this is going to live on YouTube for
Forever.
a long time. And not only that, it's not just like one of those things where like, I'm going to throw this up and like see if it gets traction. Like we've got an audience. So like there's like an expectation that it's going to be good, So it's humbling and like it's really cool to be a part of something like that because I can relate. Like you put all your heart and soul into it because you know that you don't want to be associated with something that sucks.
Right.
And also you want to be proud of it, but also like how many like people are waiting for it.
It's for them. Yeah. So, I mean, we even in the finale, because we had a finale week where we did, it's like, I made you guys wait so long. We're going to do Monday through Thursday mini episodes that are going to trickle up little breadcrumbs to the actual final Cookie House on Friday, which will get the big finale. And for one of the teasers we put out, we opened it up to all of our fans or anybody who wanted to say, hey, if you ever had any interest in doing voiceover work before, now's your opportunity. You don't need a setup, nothing. You can record on your phone. So if you want to, hit us up on social media. We had like 50 people hit us up.
Whoa.
And we're like, hey, I've always wanted to try it. And I like your show. And great. Had them say some lines. And without giving anything away, I basically took our 50 fans and friends and people who had never done voiceover work before that just wanted to be a part of it, send us these lines that I then made into a mass cult of people. And it's a part of the main storyline. So they got to play with us in a way, and it was fun. It pushed me to be like, all right, cool. I've never done something like this before, but I want to. And then we even had Aaron send personal voice message thank yous to every single one of them.
Thank you. So
yeah.
Thank you.
So it's fun because in that way we got to engage with our fans, I think, a little bit more than because we got to say, hey, if you want to come play with us, come play with us.
That's so cool. Was it like, I feel like you could have. I haven't listened to the new season yet. I have to confess. I need to listen to it soon.
All good.
But I'm imagining you did something where like they were supposed to be on the phone, like it sounded like.
Well, so in this one it was less because I think we actually talked about it last time. How I'm so particular about when I'm recording my actors, I want them to be in person, and if I can't do it in person, they will specifically be on the phone in the episode because I'm such a control freak about that,
Yeah,
having
yeah,
the
yeah,
chemistry
yeah.
be live with them. For this one, it didn't really matter because it was going to be a mass sound, and they were all basically repeating this chant.
Okay, so
So-
they're like part of a crowd. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Okay,
But
okay,
it started small
That's
and then it
cool.
gets builds in intensity. So then I spent the time cutting every single chant they did mapped off of the main, leader of this,
And then
and
you
then
lined it
adjusting
all
it.
up.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
sick.
So it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but that was just kind of my way of just saying, hey guys, like I see you out there. You have been just as much a part of this as we have. And the fact that they've spread the word and been invested and want to help out.
It's really cool because it's the first time in history where you can have something like that.
Yeah.
Where like fans can truly get involved. Like I know another cool thing that you guys did in the beginning was like combining the podcast episodes with like little mini like things on social media. Like I think you guys did like some like vlog entries or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out kind of what Rose Drive was.
Yeah, but that was cool because it was like a thing that I'd never seen anyone incorporate into a podcast. And I think, the word podcast doesn't even really cover. It doesn't really tell you anything. Like when you're like, oh, I have a podcast. It's like,
Right.
oh, cool. Like that doesn't tell me anything. It's like, oh, I make music.
Right.
And then you just leave it at that. It's like, well,
Right.
what kind of music? Do you play like piano? Or are you making like EDM? Or are you
Right.
are you in a rock band? Like,
Yeah.
are you in an orchestra? Like, I don't know. So when you say a podcast, like I do think it's cool that you guys are kind of like pushing the limits because
Yeah.
I think it's the first time where, like I listened to some shows growing up that were like audio shows, kind of similar to Rose Drive, where like there's like a storyline, but I don't remember ever being, them ever doing anything outside the box like that, and I think that podcasting you can, and obviously social media can bring you closer to your audience. You can
Yeah.
actually interact with them in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy that it's still in a very experimental stage. Even YouTube is, and all of these things where you can create your own content. Whereas in the
nuts.
80s and 90s or pre that, like you literally did had to wait for someone to give you an opportunity, or you needed to have an astronomical budget to create something.
Right.
But you can have. I think it's so wonderful to just be able to have where it's like 5 people that you get a comment every video, or you get 80,000
one,
comments.
man,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that you can put something out and have something be seen.
It
You
is
know,
crazy.
and
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because then there's that all-consuming thing of like, oh, my image is defined based upon how these people think of me or the comments they
These
leave.
strangers.
And I've seen that affect people a lot. I mean, I don't have a huge social media following, but I have friends who do, and I can see what 20,000 comments one way or the other, and spending the time reading them all and like realizing
You only remember the shitty ones, right?
the 19,000 amazing ones, but then there's that like 3 where you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
why didn't they,
Me and Richard like talk about that a lot actually, because the people that are commenting typically either are like your biggest fans or like the worst people.
Or trolls.
It's like
Someone just-
Richard was saying the other day, like the only people that go on Yelp are the 5 stars and the 1 stars. Like
Yeah.
if you had like an average time, you're like, it's
You're
good.
probably not gonna. Yeah.
I might go back. I don't know.
Right.
Like you're not gonna like specifically think like I should go on Yelp and tell everyone how average this place is.
Right.
You're going to either complain or sing the praises.
Yeah.
So like for every comment you're getting that's good, there's probably hundreds, thousands of people behind that comment that are also thinking those same things, but
Didn't
just
take the
don't
time.
take the time.
Right.
And then for every mean person, maybe there's 1 or 2 other mean people, but the mean people are purposefully being mean.
Right,
So it's
right.
like.
Well, I was going to ask both of you, because Raul's dealing with it a lot right now, but you guys with your success as well, as you started out as being artists and having a message and creating this, but then in comes this business aspect of having to like, oh shit, with this becomes this.
Yeah.
Like, and we were talking about it, the world of, we had a pretty intimate conversation about it, the world of networking and being social and stuff. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be amazing. You can meet someone and it could be considered a networking, but it's like, I just made a great new friend. Like, for instance, this is beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not always like that. And you guys with what this has become, and Raul with what Rose Drive is becoming, because I'm a little bit more behind the scenes, it's, what does that feel like?
I think, well, with Richard and I's partnership, it's always been pretty clear that Wheels to Walking was a for-profit business. Like we were starting it to inspire people and create, and like it did have that artistic side, but like we were intentional from the beginning, like we're trying to make money, like,
Right.
which is, I don't think it's evil, like, you know,
No,
like
no,
it's not,
no.
that's not
No.
even the right wording, but like, I think some people think like if you're starting something, you have to start it with only the intention of like just the goodness of your heart and you're just doing it for the people. Like, I think actually the more money you make, the more people you can serve, because like you can't
Yeah.
just do it forever for free.
Resources.
Right.
So I mean, we're just like, so like literally, it's. I think once things do progress into that, there's some conversations that need to be had. You know, like even I think about Rose Drive. It's like if you know all this stuff was like no budget, and then if all of a sudden like HBO comes along and buys the whole show, and I get a paycheck for like $1 million, like
How am I
am
gonna
I obligated to like pay all of my
Yeah.
voice actors and stuff? Like you got to kind of think about those things, because you know it is at the end of the day, everything kind of comes down to that. Like if you know, so yeah, I'm sure it's kind of complicated, but like I think for Richard and I, it was always like kind of a, from the get, we were like, we want to make this our job. So we were always kind of like thinking of it in that way, which is I think a good thing, because otherwise it would have, I mean, we've had a bunch of great conversations around money, because I think that it plays a big role in any, because it is a friendship, but it also is a business relationship. And sometimes we joke about it like, all right, now it's time to put the business hats on
Right.
and have a business meeting. And sometimes now we're having the friend hat on and we're just joking around, like, you know, so
It's survival too. You know, how and you hit it on the head. How do I create more content that obviously has an audience without the funding? And so I would never view it as generating profit as anything other than I need this to create more.
Yeah, and you can pour it back into the project.
And
then it's-
survive though
exactly.
too, and eat, you know, and not have to work a 9 to 5. You know, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. And that is even kind of the thing. I mean, we did this with no budget. The true reason is because there's no way on our own, I feel like we could have raised enough money to properly compensate everybody that did their work, all the work that I've done it, the thousands of hours Aaron came in to record and you know, helped with acting coaching and assistant directing and casting. There's so much that goes into it that I was like, okay, well, I could scrounge up some pennies and pay people an insulting
amount.
number
Yeah.
of what they're not worth, you know?
Yeah.
Or I could say, we are not making a dime on this. And should this continue to grow success, which it has, and hopefully it'll start turning into something even bigger. Without a doubt, the whole point was, let's build something so we can build something better that will not only secure jobs for more people, but also compensate everybody for everything they've done before. Because this isn't something, again, that's like a glorious thing for me. It's everybody came in understanding and knowing and wanting to create as artists, of course, but we also realize there is value in this, and the more people we can get to see that and understand that, the more that can come in. As like you said, we'll go right back to the project. It's not so I can buy more mics or the new Mac Pro. It's so I can invest in and compensate all the hours of passion that everybody put into it.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about the whole like exposure thing, you know, like, no, expose me and pay me, bitch. You know, like, right? Expose me with that green, you know,
expose my wallet, son.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's
I'm exposed the inside of it, and you gonna put that dollar in.
Exactly.
But you also, the other thing just to make a note of is you also have to realize that you're giving. You know, what I mean? You are providing a service, and for anyone to think that like, oh, this is just for you know, this is for it could be for free, but
I think,
you know,
sorry to cut you off.
No.
I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about kids growing up in this new age is they are realizing like kids understand like the business of content more than adults do,
right?
Because for the longest time, there's either been paid media or not paid media. Like for example, the radio, it's always been free. So you listen to ads. But people don't necessarily always make that decision, make that like conscious like acknowledgement that, oh, I'm being forced to listen to these ads because that's why I get to listen for free.
Right.
And, you know, same thing with YouTube. Like YouTube is free. There are ads on YouTube. I have to watch those ads if I want to continue it to be free. But then you go to the movies, you pay a ticket. You know, Netflix, you pay $10 a month, whatever it is. There's always this barrier to entry. But then there's a weird thing where people they've always been getting podcasts for free, and maybe there's a few ad reads. Some podcasts have ads, some don't, So then there's this weird blurry line. And then as soon as you start to ask for money or you try to raise a Kickstarter for a new show or all these kinds of things, people are like, well, I was getting this other thing for free, so no, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
But kids, I think, are understanding the language and the business of YouTube even more. Like I know, for example, like a creator that has a young audience is a guy, the makeup guy, James Charles, and he like notoriously like runs like a bunch of because I don't know if you guys know this on YouTube. If you have a video that's over 10 minutes, you can actually choose where to put ads in the video. Like you can put mid-roll ads.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of YouTubers, like you might notice this now, a lot of them are just over 10 minutes because once you hit that 10-minute mark, you can put more than one ad. So, and you can kind of put like unlimited, like they don't put a limit on it. They might not approve all of them, but you can put a bunch. And like, you'll see people in the comments of like James Charles videos being like, I watched all 6 ads, James, hopefully this helps. Or like, they understand that by watching the whole ad or even clicking or whatever, it might be helping him versus the old people in the comments are like, what the fuck? There was 6 ads on this shit. What the, like you expect me to sit through and watch all this bullshit?
Because it's
like,
the ads that create the revenue for the
exactly. YouTube takes their cut and then the creator gets their cut, and that's the crazy thing about the 10-minute thing is you can double your income on each video sometimes, or even triple depending on how many ads, quadruple, whatever. If there's a 5-minute video, you can only show that one ad, so you're only going to get paid like once. But if you have that 10-minute video, you could put in 2 or 3, and then that's basically doubling or tripling your income per video.
That's madness.
So like that's a strategy that a lot of YouTubers implement, is to at least try to make your video 10 minutes. And some of them even sneak it. Like you'll see, it's like literally, if it's even 10 minutes and 1 second, YouTube flips that switch.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will like drag out their outro a little longer to hit that. Like
but it's like when you're a class, you have to like reach like 500 words in your like 1-page essay. Today was a very, 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 very good
1.5
day.
spacing lines in the paragraphs or page length. Where it's like,
Well, I think just to kind of like close on what you were saying before, I think what you guys are doing, even what we're doing, is there's intent behind it. There's intention behind it, right?
Totally.
And I think that's kind of the difference there. Is like we can help supporting each other and support. It's not we're all obviously not doing this because we're making millions of dollars, on the but the more support we get, the more we can support you, the more you can get your message out, and that's what it's about. And even for us, man, we've had so many personal emails of people saying, I just want to say your show's gotten me through my work day, my work week. Like I work a blue collar job, I do this, blah, blah, blah. And for people like us, this gives us our escape. This is the escapism that is nice that I can have on my commute home. I've had several people that have reached out to me and said, I started a fiction podcast because of yours. And that just means everything. That means everything.
It's a grasp of community.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, I mean, I think you, if you want to see it grow and expand, you got to have business tactics in mind. But the most important thing is understanding what your voice is and what your message is. Like, for example, perfect time to plug. We literally just a week ago launched our Patreon after 18 hours of audio that's out there and this big finale, which is basically a movie. Like, and we just went up, we released it and told people, look, man, like we did this for no money. We have so much more we want to build. And
the ask was at the very end.
Yeah, it was like we realized we asked after like we finished the first season. Most of you may be like, that's a little weird. But the truth is, it's just so that we can have something to keep our RS feed, going. Like we're not expecting this to pay for other than just keeping us have the lights on. And everybody that's been supporting us have just been fans, and they don't like. We have a shit ton of like bonus content, all these like outtakes, all these things that because I'm somebody that will build like this. And then we'll whittle it down to this, and then the final product's this, right? So there's hours worth of, and this is all quality stuff, but it just
doesn't make it all gets lost on the cutting room floor.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so, take of a movie,
right?
So many scenes get cut out.
Yeah, so they're still getting obviously as much content as we can put out there, but they're not supporting because of the bonuses. They're supporting because they love us and they love our show, and that's where the community aspect is just like. huge. So
I think that's a good point. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like a business guy. And one of his books is called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it's basically the concept of the book is with social media marketing, you can't just throw the right hook first in boxing. You got to like jab, 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 and then land them. So it's like with social media marketing or any kind of new age stuff, you got to give, and then ask. The right hook is the ask. That's the sell. That's when they pay you. So, if I'm following Best Buy on Instagram, if every single one of their posts is buy the new laptop, buy the new microphone, buy the new computer, whatever, then that just turns into a giant sales pitch and I'm going to unfollow them. But if they're actually kind of making some cool new things, like, did you know that this new laptop has these cool little quiet keys that blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool. Or like maybe they're giving you little nuggets but they're not directly selling you. And then maybe every once in a while, they've given you so much that they can almost guilt you with that final right hook. And that's literally what it is. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, I want to give out so much free content that as soon as I have something for people to buy, like a book or whatever, he even did a collaboration with K-Swiss shoes. He's like, I want people to feel so guilty about how much value I've given them over the years that they'll buy anything I put out because they just want to give back to me, which I think it's beautiful because it's really the economy that we're in. I think it makes the most sense because people are kind of expecting they're not going to back some like Kickstarter project for a show they've never heard.
That's exactly the point I was trying to make too, because it's and that's why we put it out now, because we're like, it's so unfair for me to ask you to invest in me when you haven't even heard it. We couldn't ask
exactly
in our right mind ask you to help support us without actually having the full first project out there. At that point, decide if you want to, cool. If you want to support, please do. If not, if it's a retweet or just chill and listen, either way, the fact that you're there, or whether seen or not seen, is super important. Even in our show notes, our show notes for every episode, it's Markus kind of talking to the audience and saying, if you get a chance, leave us a review. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, hey, give us a 5-star review. We need that 5-star review. Algorithm, 5-star review. And when you tell me that, I'm like, motherfucker, I'm gonna give you 1 because you're telling me to give you 5.
Just because.
But like, and that's the thing we say. We're like, I don't like, give us whatever rating you feel is appropriate. And if you're gonna leave a review, like, it's so much more valuable to tell us why something is not working for us than to just be like, oh, that was shitty. Or if you're saying it's great, cool, tell us why you like it. It's all about learning and growth.
How important those reviews actually are, though, because like the food truck guy, our next door neighbors had an engagement party last night, and they had a food truck there, and we talked to him at the end of the night about the business of having a food truck, and literally people will go to your food truck based upon your Yelp stars, and
right.
But the other thing we were talking about is other food trucks will give you bad Yelp stars.
They'll do those.
It's like Yelp. It's like Yelp attacks, and it's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
But we live in a world, in such a social computerized world, that like our judgment about doing something many times will happen after we've researched it. It's no longer like, oh, I heard about this great barbecue place, let's go check it out. It's like, oh, what's it called? And then scroll.
Well, we kind of get this like paralysis analysis, I've heard it called, where you have so many options that you're paralyzed by your choice. Like, you can't make a choice until you've analyzed all of them and choose the best one. It's like on Amazon.
Yeah.
I need a new pair of socks, but like, guaranteed any pair of socks on Amazon isn't going to be bad, but I want to get the best socks with the best reviews and have a bunch of 5-star reviews of people like, these are the best socks I've ever worn.
Or scrolling on Netflix. You spend a half hour trying to find what you're going to watch, and then by the time you put it on, you're like,
And those ones are curated for you, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like thousands.
I could scroll for 45 minutes sometime. Not that I do that, but I could. I'm just like, I want to watch the best movie.
Yeah, exactly. And we have so many choices that we only want the best. And like, even the same thing with our time, we have so little time, like, I think people are understanding that time is the biggest resource. So they don't want to waste any time reading or watching anything that sucks. Like, as soon as you are bored with a YouTube video, you're clicking off. Like you're not gonna just watch it to the end. You're like, I already started it. I guess I'll have to finish it now. Like you're clicking off. You're changing the channel. You're moving on.
You walk into a grocery store and you realize there's a million things in here that I could eat. Whereas in 1920, you'd walk into a grocery store and it was like, here's the fruit and
bread. Couple produce, whatever's in season. You got some meat, whatever.
Yeah, just the exponential increase in what's available to us is creating what you talk about, is that paralysis of I can't make a choice because there's too many choices.
Yeah.
And that's happening with streaming. Like all this content, like people will bring up shows I haven't even heard of.
Well, it's going to happen worse in a couple
Disney or whatever.
2 weeks. Disney Plus, Apple TV, Peacock.
Yeah, where you're
HBO Max. I mean,
they're recreating network television through streaming.
Yeah.
Which was bound to happen.
Well, to be honest, too, I mean, I think you guys are ahead of the curve because I think audio is the answer to that. Because because of the fatigue of shows, you can only watch so many shows in the day before you're just a freaking slob. Like you can't be a productive citizen and also watch every show. You can't. You have to go work, but you can listen to your favorite show while you're at work.
While you're commuting. How much time do we spend
walking your
commuting?
dog?
Right.
Yeah, and I think the commute one is kind of funny too because I always hear that with podcasting, man. Like people are always talking about, well, they're like, well, the average American's commute is 32 minutes or like whatever, and they're like, so you should make your podcast exactly that long. So blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, I have so many friends that listen to tons of podcasts, and like some of them don't have a commute. I actually sometimes like to listen to music while I'm driving, and I listen to podcasts while I'm at the gym, which is like the opposite of other people. You know, like maybe they'd want to get like pumped up in the gym and listen to music. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a podcast, or like sometimes when I'm driving,
bicep curls with him.
Yeah, it can't be anything too crazy. Like if I'm doing like something like intense where I need to pump myself up, I'll change it over to music.
No, but I've done that before myself.
Yeah.
Or I actually put like the classical music on when I'm lifting or something like that, where it's completely opposite of this. Crazy
like
music.
Powerlifting gym, like heavy metal or something.
Yeah.
No, but it's true, man. Like I tend to think it's kind of BS with that commute deal.
Yeah.
Because I don't fall into that category. So I'm like, I don't really have a commute, and also I prefer longer podcasts. Like I actually like the idea, because that's why I kind of like mine a little bit longer, is I like the idea that I can pick it up right where I left off as soon as I have that moment. Like a lot of times I'll just have my Bluetooth headphones around my neck.
Right.
And, as soon as I get a break, I'm popping them in, resuming my podcast. I kind of go along, and then I got to, do something else, pause it, and I can come right back. I'm not thinking about like choosing, okay, my commute is 23 minutes, so I'm going to scroll through and find the one that's 22 minutes. So right as I roll out the door,
Done.
I'm listening to it. And as soon as I get to my spot at work, I'm pausing it. Like, I actually like pausing it, so then I have something to look forward to when I get back in the car. Like I want to keep it going. I don't want it to be this like start and finish. I like the ongoing.
Right.
Such an untapped market to the podcasting world, because it allows, like we've said, you have to sit on a couch and do nothing to watch a show.
Yeah.
You can walk your dog, you can drive, you can eat, you can do all these things. You can be at work and have it in the background. I mean, granted, with Rose Drive, you probably want to have headphones on and be locked in, but I think that's such an attractive element to something that's gaining a lot of steam, is that there are other elements of one's life throughout the day that you can enjoy this, rather than having to actually sit down and make that your primary activity.
Exactly. It's kind of like reading a book versus listening to a book.
Of course. Like I can listen to an audiobook while I lift, or while I'm running, or while I'm doing errands, and I still am absorbing it, but I'm able to continue on with my day.
Exactly. And another thing that me and Richard talk about quite frequently is this idea that sometimes certain YouTubers that we really like, we like haven't watched a lot of their recent videos because they're almost too good. Like we haven't found the time to like actually sit down and appreciate them fully. It's like if I'm going to sit down and watch, like if I want to watch, I'm like, oh, this guy just uploaded a new video. I'm not just going to like watch it passively while I'm cooking. I need to like sit down and watch it because it's going to be a masterpiece.
Right.
But if it's a video that's more casual and it's more like a talking head video, I can kind of watch it, but kind of not. And I still kind of get the gist. Right. And I think that's where podcasting like kind of fits that sweet spot, is you still feel, so immersed, but at the same time, you don't need to be visually stimulated.
Right.
And I think that, like, we were at a conference this week, and there was a podcasting panel. It's called Vid Summit, but so it's all about video, but there's a podcasting panel. and they all said that they would rather have an engaged podcast audience over an engaged video audience because that podcast audience is your freaking family, dude. Like they know you. They are listening to you while they're doing their life.
Yeah.
You know? And so like
it's very intimate.
It's
very, very intimate.
It is. And like that's why I have such a passion for it too, because I think it is kind of like the medium of the future in a weird way. Like radio was big and then TV, and now we're kind of like reverting back to radio.
Yeah.
Very
and I
much
mean,
so.
and that's even just kind of tied into what that was kind of the thing with Road Drive. I've got some of the things I've gotten from some of my friends at home have been like, I love your show, but I hate your show because you're making me sit down and listen to it. And I'm like, yeah, it's active, it's engaging, it's immersive. I didn't want to just put this on so it's something you can drown out in the background. And that's kind of like what you were saying before, is that's you can tell the effort and the amount of time that goes into what we make. Is something that you really, especially it being like a murder mystery of sorts, helps, because then you really have to stay really engaged.
And also like you're almost like wanting to open your mind's eye to visualize it, so you almost want less like visual stimulation.
Right.
Like I remember you showed me last time I was here, you showed me like a promo for like a horror intro that you were doing.
Which one was that?
The one where it was like the girl turned into the monster or something and like ate the guy or something. It was really crazy. But I remember wanting to actually close my eyes because like I was looking at a thing that wasn't relating to what my brain was like seeing. And it was cool. That was crazy. By the way, are you turning that into anything? Or have you evolved it?
That's a perfect segue. So part of this initiative we're doing with Fanmade is pushing forward is Rose Drive is our flagship. It's going to be our flagship. We have several seasons, several side stories that we want to put out there as well, but we want to dip into more genre stuff, hard genre stuff like horror, like the horror one I showed you last year. We have a romantic comedy one that we've been developing. It's in post right now, and it's really, really fun. Got to make it with like two of our best friends, and it's just so much fun.
This guy's doing a voice.
I'm making my voiceover debut in that, my acting debut.
Yeah.
I forced him into it. I was like,
man.
dude, you got to do it.
Yeah, so it's been fun. So we have that. We have a couple of hard sci-fi ones that we're writing, others that we're just producing underneath our banner. I mean, we've got a lot. We have so much more coming out, and Rose Drive was supposed to be kind of that staple of like when you hear
proving grounds.
Yeah,
kind of.
everything you hear from here on out, it's not going to be the same genre, but whatever it is here, you know the sonic aesthetic of what we're trying to create here. This is what, without a doubt, you know you're going to get production. You know you're going to get high quality acting, and sound design and music score. You know you're going to be getting a visual series for your ears, right? In a way that I know now, since everybody's jumping in fiction podcasts, everybody's like, this is not a podcast. This is not an audiobook. This is a multidimensional experience. And we're all, kind of jumping on this. And I'm like, dude, just throw your headphones on and listen to it. It's going to be fun. But, it's about, like I was saying before, understanding what your mission is and what it is you're trying to make. And the other thing that's very important to us, we haven't touched on it yet, but beyond the production is making sure there is a comfortable, warm, open door policy for everybody that wants to create. And something that's very important to us is diversity in the environment. It's something that is continuing to grow and be seen more, but it's, all these shows that we're producing have people from all walks of life. It's not just a couple of dudes that are making these podcasts. It's everybody. It's diversity is so important because there's so many lost stories you don't know and you don't hear if we're only pulling from the same elements.
Totally.
So for us, it's about creating environments that are going to be challenging and talking about stuff. I mean, there's even stuff in Rose Drive that's very uncomfortable. People listen like, oh shit, I never really thought about it.
That's life though, dude.
It is life. Exactly. So if we're creating a platform that is you're not only getting production, but you're also hearing voices of just the whole threshold of everybody. I think it makes it a more relatable and fun and genuine experience for us. Our rom-com, it's mostly female cast, people of color in every single one of our shows, LGBTQ in every single one of our shows. And it's not for novelty. It's not for like, oh, look, guys, we're with the times. We're hip.
Now our logo is rainbow.
Yeah, like we're not doing this because of any sort of like public. Like these are just our circles and our people. And this is stuff that we're doing to show there's so many more voices out there. And you know, it's something that's very personal to me and to Aaron and to what we're trying to build here. So yeah, and we're creating so many fun stories because of it.
That's great. I think, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, everyone has their own flair. Everyone has their own story. Everyone's got their own struggles. And depending on what walk of life you come from, those are all going to be very different. So I definitely, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to point out was like, you were talking about the whole, like, put on your headphones and strap yourself in. Like, I think a lot of that is, I get the intent behind a lot of it too, because I think even you guys in the first season, it was like, this podcast is meant to be listened through headphones and blah, 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 which I can appreciate, because then I'm like, oh, this is like a higher production value than my show, for example. You know, like my show, it's a conversation. I don't do anything crazy. Like, it's just talking, you know? So, but maybe this show has this particular episode.
Put some cinematic strings behind it.
Yeah, there's some risers in the background, like some scary stuff.
Put some zombies behind me, or, you know.
But the main thing I wanted to like point out there is, I've realized this a lot too, especially with videos and podcasts, is once you put your creation out into the world, it's no longer yours. Like, it's also partially the audience's to devour in however way they want and however they choose. And there's really isn't any like right or wrong way to like consume it. You can suggest to them how you think it should be, you know. It's kind of like when people get mad with like cars and stuff. It's like, well, this is a Ferrari and it is not supposed to have any modifications done to it. But it's like, dude, if you want to freaking paint your Ferrari whatever color, like, who cares? Or like, if you want to freaking modify it, like, more power to you, bro. Like, just don't be able to expect to sell it for whatever you want. Like, if it's modified, like, maybe no one else wants it, but if it's yours, it's yours. And I think that's like the same thing with videos. Like, sometimes I'll call in one of my roommates or my brother or something to be like, hey, what do you think of this? Because I want to like run an edit by them. Like, you think it's too much, or you think it's too quiet, or, you know, anything. And as soon as I start, sometimes like they'll start talking, or like sometimes they like glance at their phone for a second or whatever. And it's like, dude, I'm trying to show you this thing. Like, I'm trying to like, because I just spent the last like 3 hours
so much in it.
Like fucking headphones in, like fine tuning these exact little timings of shit.
Oh my
and then
God.
It's like, you're just like disrespecting the video. But then I realize, I'm like, well, that's what the audience on YouTube's gonna do. They get a notification at the top of their screen and they miss something. Or they freaking, their mom is calling them from the other room and they, what? And they don't pause it.
Well, Raul says it all the time, you can't control the way someone perceives what you create.
Totally, dude.
You could, like, and you just said, which is brilliant too, is once you put it out there, it's not yours to have anymore. It's the public's.
Exactly. It's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's like, yeah, you created it, but they're gonna have their own memories and associations attached to it. You know, like an artist puts out an album or something, guaranteed I have way different feelings than the artist has about the album. Like, you know, there's certain little things and details, I'm sure, about Rose Drive that you are really proud of, like, oh, this one section with the footsteps, or, you know, like random little details that just spice it up, that one little thing, but maybe 99% of people won't even notice.
But that's the thing. It's like, when I was coming to the end of finishing this finale, I did all the major sound. It was just these little key parts. I remember Aaron checking me. So like, how much is left? I'm like, I have to do like this one tiny scene. It's not that much work to do. It's like, but I'm getting so fucking lazy about it. But it was the thing is like, well, here's the thing. If I did all this sound design, no matter how minuscule or whatever, on every scene, and I didn't do it here, it's one of those things that if I do it, nobody's gonna fucking notice. But if I don't do it, everybody's gonna fucking notice. And I was like,
no, it's true, man. I think that's actually the beauty of audio is most of it goes unnoticed. It's kind of like the bassist in a band. It's like you're never like consciously just listening to the bassist.
But if you hear it without it,
it sounds empty.
They're the force, man. They're
creating that groove and that rhythm underneath that, like, underneath foundation. It's like when you look at a building, you're not like, that's a great foundation. You're looking up, but like they're creating that foundation that the rest of the building stands on.
Too. That's good foundation voice.
Dude,
I'm casting right now for season 2, man.
Dude,
We'll get
I'm
the
not gonna lie.
nerdy dad voice for you.
That's a great foundation.
Well, golly gee, that's a great foundation. If you notice down there, it's definitely took them a long time.
Audition accepted.
Dude, honestly, it's funny, like my mom has like always said like you should be a voice actor, you should be a voice actor. Like I can do a lot of voices, so I'll gladly accept. The main thing about the voice acting for me was I never like saw it as I always saw the end goal of being like, yeah, jumping in a studio doing voiceover, like I could probably do that. That sounds super fun.
Right.
But the like steps along the way, it was always like, I don't know if I'm like I don't know if that's me. You know what I mean? Because I felt like a lot of voice actors, you think about like big ones that they're doing maybe like a lot of cartoons or whatever. Probably a lot of them were like classically trained actors before, and then they moved to voice acting.
Right.
You know, and like that was something where I wasn't as passionate going towards that. So it was like I don't know how I can just like bypass all the regular acting and just hop right into voice acting without some sort of like connection. But maybe you're that connection for me.
Hey,
bro.
man, let's do it.
Won't leave you hanging there. How long have we been going, Richard? Do you know on that counter? Normally I've got a little counter.
135.
Okay.
135?
An hour and 35.
Holy crap, that went
It flew by.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good place to kind of like wrap things
Yeah.
up. So give us, if you can, any sneak peeks of anything that you guys what can people expect? I know you said you've got some new shows coming,
That's this
but
guy's department.
is there anything we should be looking out for?
Yeah. So right now we're in development of a romantic comedy
Nice.
podcast that I was talking about earlier. That's we just finished. We've finished recording for the pilot of it, and we may be putting a sneak peek of that, and also the one that you were talking about, the horror one we did last year. I did mention before we have a Patreon, and what we're doing right now for our Patreon members is giving them little samples and sneak peeks
Nice.
of what's to come. So
It's awesome.
if you listen to Rose Drive and you enjoy it and you feel like contributing to it, it's there for you. We do our tier system a little differently. There's 3 tiers: a small, a medium, and a high one. They all award you the same stuff because we didn't feel it was right that the incentive should be behind. You get more content the more money you give us, because we have a lot of people who are in college or high school or just they shouldn't be punished because they don't have the funds to support. So it's there for whatever level of convenience is there for you, but we're constantly making updates to that. So patreon.com/rosedrive, you can find it there. We have a couple of other just proof of concepts that we're establishing right now. Nothing quite ready to launch yet, but we're working on getting some potential.
I mean, you just released Rose Drive season 2, so like, it makes sense that there's going to be a little buffer.
Right, and so, but that's all kind of playing catch-up work to everything we started doing within that year and a half between the finales. So there is a lot of stuff coming. Nothing quite solidified yet, or with a home necessarily, but we do have a horror and a sci-fi, hard sci-fi, that pilot's done as well, and a rom-com. So the 3 other genres that we're going to be doing.
Are you guys pitching those to like other,
Yeah.
Because obviously now the goal is kind of to fund this whole thing, because you can't do it for free forever.
We can't, and that was even kind of the whole initiative behind this was like, we really want to keep doing this, but we treat this as a very serious art form, and we see it no differently than anything you're watching on Hulu or Netflix. So we have a couple of partnerships coming up that we're kind of working out the kinks in right now, but
that's exciting.
Yeah, the second that we have it out there, it's all up there. But if all our updates we're doing on Rose Drive, so if you check us out, follow us we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
wherever you're listening
to this, you can find it.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of just in that phase of just strategizing and figuring out how we're going to launch our next shows.
Sick.
Lots more to come.
Sick stuff. Aaron, any other projects that you're working on? Anything cool?
Not
that I'm putting you on the spot. if there's
I'm
not.
always working. I'm writing a poetry book right now. That's
Nice.
basically through memories. So it's poetry through memories. I'm always constantly working on piano stuff. I've just gotten into chill hop. So
nice.
jamming piano to these hip hop beats, which Raul introduced me to chill hop, and it's just been because I love jazz, and jazz is so freeing.
Yeah.
But to put it into hip hop, which I grew up with, that was product of Eminem.
Yeah.
But which isn't the real. I mean, Eminem's hip hop, but there's so much more.
It's
Besides him,
we were at Vid Summit. They said that like lo-fi hip hop was like the #1 searched music term on YouTube.
It's just beautiful.
I write all my scripts to it, man. I came across it one day and I was like, oh my God, this is everything.
Those live streams, like
the little panda in the background, or little raccoon that's on the like.
There's like
great.
consecutively like millions of people listening to those like at any given time. Like it's pretty nuts. So that's really cool that you're getting into that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I've said a few times, I'm just creative every day. I'm trying to do something to where I feel like I've grown, and not judging what I'm doing, but just know that I'm doing it, and really not. I have a goal site. We all have goals. And I just know that if I am doing something every day, whether it's poetry, piano, like I said, I'm in an acting class every week. When my opportunities present themselves, then I'll be ready for them. But I also create my own. I'm writing my own scripts and that kind of stuff. So nothing per se to like go check out, but just always busy. And I think what I would like to give is the message that whoever listens to this, that you don't have to have someone give it to you. Just go make stuff, and make shitty stuff, make good stuff, make mediocre stuff, but it's all going to funnel together and create a better you if you want it.
Totally. All three of us are products of that for sure. I mean, that's what this podcast was.
Yeah.
I started out of nowhere and no one asked for it.
Yeah.
There wasn't anyone asking on fucking planet Earth for an Andrew Deitsch podcast. No one was asking for that. But here we are, 130 some episodes later.
Incredible, man. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for hosting me. This is awesome.
Thanks for coming over, man.
Yeah, and we'll have to make it happen again. I always love hanging. Sure. I'm glad to finally meet you, Aaron.
Yeah,
I've been following you on social media and stuff. So yeah. Definitely go follow these guys and everything. I'll have the links in the show notes. And thanks for listening, everybody. See you later. Boom! There you have it, guys. Thanks again to Raul for hosting us at his studio. That was an awesome experience. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely go check out episode 96 with Raul. It was an awesome episode where we dove into how he got the inspiration for the podcast, what it's like to work for Hans, and the challenges of growing a podcast like that from scratch. Go check it out. That episode is called Netflix for Your Ears. Also, make sure you go check out season 1 of Rose Drive. I'm sure you can listen to it wherever you're listening to this right now. And if you want to support the show, you can take a nice little screenshot, post it on your story. That's a great way to share the podcast with your friends and family. You can also go to iTunes or the Apple Podcasts app and rate it 5 stars. That also really helps out too. If you want to follow me, you can go to my website, andrewdeitsch.com. You can find all my social media links there. But that's all I got. Thank you guys so much again for listening, especially all you loyal peeps who listen every single week. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys.
Passion project. Everybody has helped and nobody got paid a dime because I'm a cheap ass.